Hello, this is Kinninigan from RagingReptilian.com. First of all, I'd like to thank all my subscribers. By the time I upload this video today, I should be at 10,000 subscribers. Although, strangely, I do believe YouTube is unsubbing a lot of people from me. But yes, I should be at 10,000 by the time I upload this video today. This video here I made on my other channel, and I'm remaking as per one of my Patreons had asked me to remake this video, and it's a topic that I wanted to redo anyway because it takes everything that we know about mainstream modern history and turns it upside down. And we even have scientific evidence to back up the claim that this site is real. This is Rama's Bridge, also known in India as Rama Setu, or commonly known as Adam's Bridge in Islam. It is a land formation that is sunken in the ocean now that connects the continent of India to the island of Sri Lanka, known in ancient times as just the island of Lanka. The construction of this, well, it's underwater now. We do have satellite pictures. I will be showing you some of them. And there was even tests done on this site by scientists, which we'll go over, that pretty much proves that this was a man-made I wouldn't exactly say the word quote-unquote man-made. I'll say made by intelligent design. Because when we get into some of the mythology of the Ramayana, you're going to realize it involves shape-shifting demons, an army of hybrid monkey men known as the Vanara, and of all things, involves mermaids. Yes, mermaids are in the Ramayana, and they're even talked about in the mythology, and even had an involvement with the construction of Rama's Bridge. The story is basically there is a deity in Hindu mythology known as Rama. Rama is one of the incarnations of Lord Vishnu, and Rama has a wife known as Sita, and his wife Sita is stolen by a 10-headed demon king known as Ravana, who takes Rama's wife to the island of Lanka. So to get his wife back, a big war breaks out, and they build Rama's Bridge in 5 days to connect the continents together so he can walk his army over. But the most amazing thing about this story is, according to Hindu mythology, this happened roughly about 1.5 to 1.7 million years ago. Yes, and it goes against everything we've been taught about mainstream history. This is what Rama's Bridge looks like as per satellite pics. I have an article pulled up here that's going to go over a lot of the basic information about the story and the science behind proving that this was actually a man-made formation. Then we're also going to take a look at some of the mythology from the Ramayana itself, where things start to get really interesting. Now, if anyone remembers, I did this video. This was another video I remade about the ancient reptilian city on Sri Lanka, Sigiriya, the Lion Rock. I believe this was the location that Ravana, the demon king, was headed to. Obviously, we have this big dragon head here, and if you want to watch this video on my channel, this, I believe, directly connects in with the story of what is going on here, and this is where I believe that the island of Lanka is an ancient island. It's not new like Hawaii is a modern island due to volcanic activity. This is a prehistoric island and has been here, this land formation has been here quite a long time. I'm going to leave all these links in the description. One thing you need to understand about Hindu mythology is a lot of people, when they look at the art and the stories behind Hindu mythology, they kind of brush it off as just being science fiction or fantasy, but there's a lot more truth to the mythology. In India, and we want to make out to believe, one of the most infamous cities, for example, is the sunken city of Dwarka. And India has a lot of cities hidden underwater around their coast. A lot of ancient cities that go against human history, including Rama's Bridge. Rama's Bridge, where modern science and ancient myths collide. Historians, archaeologists, and researchers in our distant past insist that civilized life began on the Earth about 5,000 years ago. They point to the fact there is no hard evidence to support the existence of a pre-existing culture prior to the rise of the Sumerians and Egyptians. When alternative historians such as John Anthony West, Robert Schlach, and Graham Hancock proposed that structures on the Giza Plateau in Egypt may be far older than currently accepted, their claims were quickly dismissed. Unfortunately for us, no written record exists which documents the date of their construction, so these complex masterpieces are placed in a generally accepted timeline of human development and culture. But what if there was evidence? What if a structure that was clearly identified in our written and oral traditions were to be found? And what if the stories associated with that site put it unmistakably outside the generally accepted timeline? If an analysis of both the structure and the associated myths were done, and they were both supported by modern science, could it change the face of history, a history we held so dearly? This just might be what happened at a discovered site in India. Located in the Palk Strait off the southeastern edge of India is a chain of limestone shoals. A shoal or sandbar is characterized by a long and narrow strip of land typically composed of sand, silt, and small pebbles that have been deposited over time. The strip of land was once believed to be a natural formation. However, images taken by a NASA satellite has shown that the land formation to be long, broken bridge under the ocean's surface. Now called Adam's Bridge, it extends 18 miles from mainland India to modern-day Sri Lanka. Yes, it's 18 miles along, and here's where things get really interesting. I was able to find this. This is a newspaper article from NASA's Discovery, and I'm kind of actually shocked by this because it gets so little attention. Quite possibly they found a site by satellite that could change the entire course of human history, and all we get is a little write-up in a newspaper, and that's kind of not talked about anymore. NASA discovers images of ancient Ramayana Bridge, Washington. The NASA shuttle has imaged a mysterious ancient bridge between India and Sri Lanka, as mentioned in the Ramayana. The evidence, say experts matter-of-factly, is the digital image collection. The recently discovered bridge, currently named as Adam's Bridge and made of a chain of shoals 30 kilometers long in the Palk Straits between India and Sri Lanka, reveals a mystery behind it. The bridge's unique curvature and composition by age reveals that it is man-made. Legend as well as archaeological studies reveal that the first signs of human inhabitants in Sri Lanka date back to the primitive age, about 1,750,000 years ago, and the bridge's age is also almost equivalent. And that's it. That's the only story that came out from the, quote, discovery from NASA of the bridge. These are the satellite photos. You can actually, these were taken off Google Earth. Hindu tradition has long held the belief that a strip of land was a bridge built by their beloved deity Rama, as described in the Hindu epic the Ramayana. It has been referred to since antiquity as Rama's Bridge or Rama Setu. Rama is a popular figure in Hindu mythology. The book that chronicles his life, the Ramayana, is a time-honored classic. It tells of a time when the gods flew on ships through the air and of giants and monsters that walked the earth. Researchers who have analyzed the Ramayana state that it is an over-ambitious work of fiction. Is that true? Or is it possible that Adam's bridge is actually the structure described in the Indian classic? A number of pieces of evidence support the claim that Adam's bridge is the same one described in literature. Rama, according to the Ramayana, was sent into exile because of a promise his father had made many years before. Rama was joined by his brother Lakshmana and his wife Sita. Through a course of a number of unfolding events, Sita is kidnapped by the 10-headed demon king Ravana. Rama, in an attempt to rescue Sita, assembles an army which includes a large group of ape men, the Vanara. Now, from the other video I did, and unfortunately the website, I cannot find it anymore, so I don't even know if it exists. When the 10-headed demon king Ravana, I believe that refers directly to a reptilian shapeshifter being able to change his form. And the reason why, in the Ramayana, when Sita is kidnapped, it is done by someone who she believes is an associate. I believe one of her, somebody in the, that was in their, like, royal family. I forget the exact name of the person, but this person appeared to Sita, but was actually a shapeshifter, and that's how they kidnapped her. She thought that somebody was coming towards her that she knew and trusted, and wound up being sent by the demon king Ravana. And that person that kidnapped Sita actually shapeshifted. It is discovered that Sita is being held captive on the island of Lanka. Rama, unable to move his massive forces of ape men across the ocean, is advised by the sea god to build a bridge across the water. The sea gods, this is where we'll get into some of the mermaid mythology later when I show you some of the Ramayana. The Vanara built a causeway between the mainland to Lanka, constructing it of rocks and boulders which are described as resembling mountains. The building project is said to have lasted for 5 days and to have been 100 leagues in length. The bridge, once completed, allowed Rama to transport his army of Vanara across the ocean to Lanka. Once there, Ravana is killed and Sita, Rama's wife, is returned. According to Hindu tradition, Rama lived during the Treta Yuga, a period of time that began 2,165,000,000 years ago and extended to about 869,000 years ago. On the surface, this claim seems absurd. One assumption that is often made is that Rama and many characters that fill the Ramayana are men and women as we currently know them. This, however, does not explain individuals like the 10-headed demon king Ravana and other strange individuals who inhabit the Ramayana's pages. If you let go of the belief, just for one moment, that the figures described in this tale, this epic tale, were human as we currently know them to exist, you will see how only in this light will all of this make sense. To begin our assessment as to the validity of the claim that Adam's bridge is the same one talked about in myth, let us first look at the bridge itself. Now, I have an article pulled up with this doctor right here that we're going to take a look at, and I believe that you pronounce his name Dr. Vanara. I could be saying that wrong, it's difficult to pronounce. The former director of the Geological Survey of India performed a survey of the structure and concluded that it was man-made. And I have a link to that article here too, so we're going to take a look at this. Here we are, right here. This is the gentleman here who actually, now he's the one that actually did the test on it. Rama Setu is not a natural formation. I'm just going to call him Dr. B. So this article I'll leave in the description, and it basically states that Dr. B and his team did testing on this site with divers. They went down and discovered that these boulders were quarried. They were quarried from both sides of Lanka and India itself. They are not a natural coral formation or anything. So it's already been proven that the Rama's Bridge is man-made. Like I said, we have the NASA satellite photos that found it. And then after that, this was in 2007, they published this article here stating that the boulders were man-made. I'm using the word man-made really loosely too. I said intelligent design earlier because the Vanara who built this were a hybrid race of monkey men tied in with the monkey god Hanuman, obviously. And not only that, but there was assistance of mermaids also in the construction of this bridge. So it gets pretty interesting. So this is where they're going to talk a little bit more. I'm going to call him Dr. B just for sense of, I'm really going to hack up his last name. I know it's quite tough. Dr. B, the former director of the Geological Survey of India, performed a survey of the structure and concluded that it was man-made. Dr. B and his team drilled 10 boreholes along the alignment of Adams Bridge. What he discovered was startling. About 6 meters below the surface, he found a consistent layer of calcareous sandstone, corals, and boulder-like materials. His team was surprised when they discovered a layer of loose sand about 4 to 5 meters further down than the hard rock formations below that. A team of divers went down to physically examine the bridge. The boulders that they observed were not composed of a typical marine formation. They were identified as having come from either side of the causeway. Dr. B also indicates that there is evidence of ancient quarrying in these areas. His team concluded that materials from either shore were placed upon the sandy bottom of the water to form the causeway. With the creation of this engineering marvel revealed, we will turn our attention to additional evidence that supports its connection to the Ramayana. In particular, its claim to have been constructed during the Treta Yuga. Earlier, we asked you to suspend your belief about the nature of individuals portrayed in the Ramayana. And it is not to the gods, the monster, nor the main character Rama that we would like to draw your attention, but instead to the Vanara, the ape men who constructed the bridge for Rama. The Vanara, according to the Ramayana, were the children of the gods who were born in the form of the ape. The gods seared the Vanara just after Rama's birth in order to help Rama in his war against Ravana. Who were these ape men? Could the stories of the Vanara we find in myth be describing our earliest ancestors? Are they talking about us, mankind? Is it entirely possible? Now, I'm going to show you what the Vanara actually look like. This is a temple in Thailand known as the Temple of the Emerald Buddha. And inside this temple they have a massive amount of murals depicting a story from the Ramayana. Now, as you see here, these are this is the monkey army, aided by the Queen of the Southern Ocean, Gunyan, and her subjects, builds a bridge of stones to Lanka. Now, you obviously see on this mural, right, you see mermaids here. And they are spoken of in the Ramayana, and they helped in the construction of this bridge. This some of the murals on here of the monkey army. And this was the war between the monkey army and Ravana's army. Ram and his younger brother Atlak attend a meeting with the Magus, Philfek, and the monkey military chiefs. And this is Hanuman. He is the monkey god in the Hindu pantheon. There's three main animal deities in Hinduism. You have Hanuman, the monkey god, Ganesha, he's the one with the elephant face, and then you also have Garuda. Now, I've made a video on Garuda before stating that he is the Alpha Draconian reptilian. He's very avian looking. Garuda is a bird, and Garuda is the name of an airline in India of all things. This is Hanuman actually flying into the mouth of a sea ogre. Yeah, we're getting into more sea mythology here, and this looks like a giant as well. And then Hanuman enlarges his own body, becomes a giant himself. Now this is another pic I got here. This comes from the British Museum, and this is what the Vanara look like. These monkey guys right here with the swords. And these were the hybrid ape men that helped in the construction of the bridge, and who Rama walked across the bridge in a massive amount of numbers too. Remember, this bridge is 18 miles long. So when I first heard the story, I asked myself, well, why didn't he use ships to obviously sail to Lanka? And there's probably one of two reasons. One, if there were mermaids in this time during the Ramayana, they could easily sabotage a boat, because Ravana has mermaids working for him as well. As you just seen, I showed you with Hanuman and the sea ogre. Two, he marched a massive amount of troops over this bridge, so they probably didn't have a massive fleet of ships to, sail 100,000 people over at one time. They would have all had to arrive at the same time, especially if you're fighting a war. You can't have one ship go over, drop off a bunch of soldiers, and just wait there and ferry them back and forth. Doesn't work like that. You could easily be attacked while you're waiting for the rest of your army to show up. So he had to march them over quickly. And remember, it only took them 5 days to make this bridge, which in itself is an amazing feat. But I wanted to show you, what the Vanara actually looked like there. Around 2.5 million years ago, just prior to the opening of the Treta Yuga, human evolution took a major leap with the introduction of the genus Homo. Homo habilis were the first group of primates that were able to utilize tools. By about 1.8 million years ago, Homo erectus and Homo ergaster made their debut. Homo ergaster was found primarily in Africa, while Homo erectus was located in Eurasia. Studies of these two species suggested that Homo ergaster had a smaller cranial capacity, while its cousin Homo erectus a larger one. Studies of Homo erectus skeletal structure indicate that Homo erectus was robust, which suggests that they were stronger than contemporary man. In addition to these physical changes, sites where the bones of Homo erectus have been discovered show evidence that these early men lived in small communities, living in huts as temporary shelters, wore clothes, and created stone tools. In a nutshell, they began to display early signs of civilization, a trait that had not been seen before in any other primate group. These ape men literally did live during the Treta Yuga. Are the Vanara of myth our ancestors? It is interesting to note that the name Adam's Bridge came from Islamic legend, which maintains that Adam, the first man on earth, traveled across the bridge when he was expelled from paradise. Could Adam, the first man, our distant relative, also have been Homo erectus? Even though the earliest known written copy of the Ramayana only dates back to 1500 BCE, this epic tale is believed to be much older. Is Adam's Bridge the same one described in literature? I think so. What do you think? And obviously I believe it as well. I had mentioned earlier, in the other video I had, unfortunately the website, I cannot find it. I've been searching for this website for 2 weeks and kind of just gave up on it because I had a website before where the murals that I just showed you here had stories and describing the events around Rama's Bridge and the war that happened between the ten-headed demon Ravana and Rama. But unfortunately, the only thing I can find a lot of murals from the Ramayana. I found them, some of them are for sale, some of them are in museums, and of course, yes, we have the Temple of the Emerald Buddha actually displays the whole Ramayana through murals, but it's parts of the murals like this which is really mind-boggling, especially the fact that we have mermaids, sea ogres. I had some other things pulled up here. This is what the outside of the Emerald Temple looks like. This was just like something I found. It looks like someone that went on vacation here and took some pictures. The temple itself is actually pretty amazing. And there was, you know, some pictures of the Ramayana in here. But what I find really amazing, though, is, like I said, with the newspaper article I pull up, you know, NASA discovers the bridge, and we get this little article here. 2007, Dr. B, that's what we're going to call him, this gentleman right here. Basically, him and his teams confirm that the bridge is a man-made formation. It probably is Rama's bridge from the Ramayana. And then doesn't really get talked about too much anymore. I believe the probably the only people that may, I wouldn't be surprised if this was talked about like on Ancient Aliens. I know the Lost City of Dwarka was. And the reason I'm mentioning Dwarka is I believe around the time that we have all these other hidden, and Graham Hancock actually goes into a lot of documentaries about the cities of Dwarka and the hidden cities. I seen a documentary with Graham Hancock where he had to get permission from India to dive at certain sites because some of these ancient cities are pretty shallow in the ocean. And that's what I believe also caused the Rama's Bridge to become underwater as sea levels rose. The sea levels are probably not the same as they are today, if considering this was 1.5 million to 1.7 million years ago. So we probably had a little bit of, and that's probably what caused the sinking of a lot of these ancient cities around India. Could have even happened during the Great Flood, which I wouldn't doubt. It would actually make sense and fall in line with the flood. So I believe, yes, Rama's Bridge, and including all the ancient cities around India like Dwarka and all that, I believe definitely proved that there was a civilization going on planet Earth well over 1 million years ago. It would also consistently line up with the other video I did about the Sumerian kings list that basically shows close to a 500,000 year reign with Sumerian kings. That's kind of covered up in history also. Now what's interesting about Rama Sita, you can actually go see this. People come here all the time to see this site. This is kind of like what it looks like, and it's kind of surreal because you can walk out onto the causeway a little bit, and then it goes underwater, as you see here. Now, I believe this curving that we see here was probably due when it sank. So you can actually walk right on this causeway up until like where the water line is, and it's pretty interesting. I'll show you some other pics here. I mean, it's pretty mind-boggling. Now, I want to show you what Ravana looks like. Because I believe that Ravana is definitely referring to a reptilian shapeshifter. He has the ability to change, you know, it's known as having 10 heads. This, yeah. He's shown, yeah, having the different heads here in mythology. I believe that was a direct reference to reptilian shapeshifting, obviously. Okay, for the last part of this video, I did a little bit of searching to see what I could find on the story of the kidnapping of Sita by Ravana. The one thing that I like about this most is ultimately, this is a love story. This is Rama right here, and this is his wife Sita. I was able to get, this is from the, British Library online. I'll leave this link in the description. There's some, I said I was looking for some of these, which are the, tell a little bit of the story of the Ramayana here. But ultimately, Ravana, the king of demons, falls in love with Sita. So Ravana kidnaps Sita and takes her to his demon kingdom in Lanka, in which Rama then decides to save his wife. Now here, I mentioned earlier about shapeshifting. I was wrong about, okay, there is shapeshifting involved in the story, but it involved a deer. And Ravana himself actually shapeshifts. This is the interesting part for me, obviously, because you know what I cover. Take a look at this mural real quick, and then we'll read the story attached to it. You see bird reference here. This is Ravana, the 10-headed demon king. And yes, even in this story, he has a quote-unquote flying chariot, or Vemno. I'm going to make a video in the future about the Hindu UFOs, the Vemanas. Quite interesting. There is a lot of stuff in Hindu mythology that is basically quote-unquote out of this world, and I mean that literally. The evil Ravana, king of the demons, who had 10 heads and 20 arms, spied Rama's beautiful wife Sita in the forest. He fell in love with her instantly. Ravana arranged for his servant Marisha to disguise himself as a golden deer, that's shapeshifting right there, turning into a deer, and tempt Rama and Lakshman away from Sita. Lakshman drew a circle in the dust around Sita to protect her and told her not to step out of the circle. That is a magic circle, probably a 9-foot magic circle, just like I teach with the in the occult. And it's only when you start adding the quote-unquote angles to the circle that you start summoning demonic entities, or I call them archons. But yes, there is a circle of protection, and that's what was cast around Sita to protect her from Ravana. The story is heavily inundated with magic, obviously, also. But Ravana cleverly disguised himself as an old beggar man, shapeshifting again, and begged Sita for food and drink. Sita took pity on him and stepped out of the circle. The beggar man turned back into Ravana, catching Sita in his arms and pulling her into his magic flying chariot, UFO, or Vemno. Sita cried for help, and a fierce bird, Jatua, attacked Ravana in an effort to stop him. But Ravana cut off the bird's wings with his sword. Sita threw her necklace to the ground in hope that Rama would save her, and that's how Rama knew that she had been kidnapped, because he found her necklace. And then this is about Hanuman right here, who is the Hanuman led the Vanara, who helped Rama build this bridge to go over to Lanka. There's the Ramayana itself is pretty long. There are a lot of stories and a lot of murals. I wanted to show this one. This is actually her in the palace of Ravana in Lanka. And the Medicine Mountain. A battle broke out between Ravana's demon army and Rama's animal army. That is the Vanara, the hybrid monkey men. Lakshman was so badly wounded in the battle that it seemed he would die before sunrise. In some version of the stories, many monkeys and bears are wounded too. The monkeys and bears decided that Hanuman must leap to the Himalayas and bring back the healing herb from the Medicine Mountain to save Lakshman's life. Now, I find this really interesting, especially the Himalayas. That's where Tibet is, and supposedly Shambhala, and also entrance to the Hollow Earth. So Hanuman leapt over the ocean and across the whole of India to the Himalayas. Arriving in the Himalayas, it took a long time to find the fabled medicine mountain. Hanuman found it at last, covered with herbs, but he didn't know which was the magic healing herb. So he wrapped his arms around the whole mountain, pulled it out of the ground, and lifted it onto the palms of his hand. He then flew with the mountain back to Lanka. Hanuman carrying the mountain is reproduced again and again in all forms of art. On the way, the sun began to rise, so Hanuman decided to capture the sun under his arm so he could arrive back before sunrise in time to save Laxman. The healing herb was picked and given to Laxman. Laxman was healed and filled with energy. And here's a mural of that there. Again, we have more of the hybrid Vanara here. Now, what's interesting too, when Hanuman goes to Lanka to look for Sita, he shrinks himself down to the size of a mouse and runs around on the island of Lanka to locate her. That's so he couldn't be seen. So we have another reference there to obviously shape-shifting into an animal. The entire story is quite long, as I said, and there are a lot of murals to go along with it. I wish I could have found some of the murals with more of the mermaids involved in this, but I will in time. Maybe I'll make a follow-up video just about the story of the Ramayana and the characters involved in that, because it's pretty interesting. I've only begun to touch on Hindu mythology because it's vast. I mean, there's a lot to take in and a lot of stories to understand. We have a lot of stories here too. I'll leave this link in the description, and there's all kinds of things here that you can see different stuff about Rama. This is interesting. The demons at Ravana's palace. Demonesses, yes, working for Ravana. Obviously, you know, these are not quote-unquote human as we know them. In fact, this one right here, you know, that one looks very reptilian there. And a lot of them had the ability to shapeshift. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video. This was more about obviously Rama's bridge, or Adam's bridge, or Rama Setu as it's known. I'll leave this link in the description also. I'm not going to read from this, but this was the source for the article that was written here. This is the source of the information that came from NASA. NASA image finds 1,750,000-year-old man-made bridge between India and Sri Lanka. Adam's Bridge. And there's some stories here, pretty much covering a lot of what I went over. This one goes into more of the text in the Ramayana. So if you're interested and want to actually read this, there's a few stories compiled here. There's no doubt that we have a much longer history on planet Earth than they want to admit, probably going back a few million years. And I believe that the different there's been multiple floods, and that is as per the Sumerian kings list, as well as there were different kings throughout different ages, and they call it there was destruction by fire, destruction by water, the flood was obviously the one by water. Fire, I think, would have been the destruction of possibly Atlantis and Lemuria with the hitting of the ice comet Venus onto Earth at one time. That was the Alpha Draconian takeover, obviously. But the toughest thing for me is putting all these mythologies together to get the real history of planet Earth, and it's quite difficult. So there are a lot of mythologies I cover from all around the world, and I'm going to be making more videos about Hinduism in the future and Indian mythology, because in Asia also, they're kind of all tied in together. Obviously, the Emerald Temple of the Emerald Buddha that I had pulled up here is in Thailand, of all places. So the mythology is all around Asia, and they're pretty well aware of the story over there. And this is a well-known story in India, obviously. I might be new to some of my subscribers, but yeah, it's definitely something you may want to look into if you're interested in Hindu mythology. I suggest you read about the Ramayana and the stories involved. They're quite mind-boggling. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video. I will leave all these links in the description. Again, if anyone could help us out through donations or with Patreon, anything would be appreciated. And until we speak again, this is Kinninigan, and take care.